Hey, and welcome back to the Michael Cohen Show, where we are now well into the 100,000 subscriber number, on our way to 250,000. So if you like what you hear and you like what you see, hit the like button and subscribe. Alrighty. The other day, Fred Trump III was on The View. He wasn't just on The View, he was on MSNBC. He's been making his rounds with his new book. So do me a favor, watch this clip. This is horrific, by the way. This tells you everything you need to know about Donald Trump. So let's watch this clip, and then you're going to hear my reaction.
In 1999, your son, William, was born with a rare genetic disorder causing severe developmental and intellectual disabilities, and you spent years advocating for his care, eventually lobbying Donald to establish a medical fund for William, which he consistently replenished, but just a caveat, he had also taken your inheritance. So he and his siblings. So that's why you were in this situation to start with. But later, when you called to let him know that this medical fund was running low, you say he made a shocking suggestion to you. So what did he say?
You know, it doesn't get any easier to recall this moment. But yes, the fund, which was only necessary because my inheritance was taken away from me and Mary.
Because of him.
Because of Donald hatched the plan.
Yeah, and their sibling.
And he was my trustee. Again, I called him to say, Donald, the fund is running low. And without skipping a beat, he said, your son doesn't recognize you. Let him die and move down to Florida. Now, I can't explain how anybody could say that about another human being, least of all your grandnephew.
A blood relative, too.
A blood relative.
Grandnephew.
And Donald had never met William. He didn't understand
Let him die.
the inspiration William is to people. Anyone who William meets, and if you look at the smiles that he has, he is quite something.
Well, that tells you a lot about the man, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's
And his policies will let people die also.
No truer words could have been said than what was said by Joy Behar. I want you to think about what you just heard. First and foremost, Fred is the brother of Mary Trump, somebody who you have heard and seen quite a bit over the course of the past few years, acknowledging that Donald, through some scheme, had managed to take control of his father, Fred, to take control of the entire Trump estate. And this has been an ongoing contention, not just with Fred and his heirs or his children, but also with Judge Barry, his sister, as well as Elizabeth. It's been an ongoing conversation for a very long time, how he managed to get the funds from his father's estate. And as we all know, his father made a ton of money. It's not even known how much money or how rich Fred Trump really was, but he was incredibly rich. But again, listen to the things that Fred is now saying, and he says in his book. He talks about how Donald turned around and said, let him die, and then move down to Florida. He thinks moving down to Florida is the answer to everything. Why? I don't know. The sheer callousness that is being projected by Donald's statements, it's nauseating. You could actually vomit from it. I mean, the lack of compassion for your grandnephew, for your nephew's child, knowing what you did. And the funny thing is how many times over the course of my tenure with Donald, I had heard how fond he was of his brother, Fred Jr., who passed away of alcoholism at a relatively young age. If in fact that's true, and you have the money that you have, which you inherited, do you not take care of your brother's children? Is that not what people do? Non-rich people do this. So you would think that somebody who so dastardly took the money from their estate would actually do things to help, especially when you have your grandnephew who is disabled. I also want to turn around and said that one of the things that Donald also brings up here is the fact of the lack of regard, not just for human life, but also for the disabled. And don't forget for a second when Donald Trump mocked the journalist when he was giving his speech rally and started, making fun of him, the guy who has neurological issues. Donald doesn't care about any of these people. Not only does he not care about them, he doesn't care about you. He doesn't care about us. He doesn't care about anyone or anything other than himself. I'll never forget that there was a gentleman who was a veteran, an Iraq war veteran, who had either he had stepped on an IED or was the close proximity to the IED when it exploded, and it took off his ear, it took off the side, like literally almost like the side of his face, a hand, his legs, the whole bit. I mean, he was severely burnt and so on. And he came to the office at one point in time. And I remember afterwards, Donald saying, "Why even want to live?" He was a very handsome guy before this unfortunate incident. And he showed Donald when he took his prosthetic ear off, the whole 9 yards. He showed him pictures of his family, beautiful wife, beautiful children. And I remember Donald saying, so it's why when Fred was out there on the news circuits talking about his book in this comment, I'm saying to myself, I've heard this shit before come out of Donald's mouth. Why would anybody want to live like that? Well, maybe because he has a wife, maybe because he has children, and maybe because he values life. And this was a soldier. This was a soldier who was going through all of this, the pain of the surgeries and so on, so that he could live for his wife and his children. But then again, that means you have to love yourself. You have to love people. You have to love others more than you just love your one and only, and that meaning yourself, as Donald does. This is really just a terrible thing. But there's an expression that the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. And we see on a regular basis things like Don Jr., we see things like Eric and others in the family start kind of repeating the same nonsensical horse shit that their father does. And it's all designed so that their father pays them some attention, that they become the favorite child, that they become loved. It's all in search of daddy's love. Eric Trump, who I will constantly refer to as the stupidest of all of them. Well, when I say all of them, I'm talking about of the top three, right, of his siblings. Eric Trump decides that he has to do something because of this terrible injustice by Fred and the book coming out. He puts out a statement. I want to show you that statement. I want to read you that statement, and then you'll hear my final reaction from Eric Trump regarding this. It's disappointing that after decades of unwavering love, support, golf memberships, family vacations, and millions of dollars in support for his wonderful son, Fred Trump has decided to cash in less than 100 days before an election. I have signed the checks and witnessed firsthand as my father and our family has provided endless financial support so that Fred's son could receive the best possible medical care. To read this garbage and see that he has now followed his troubled sister simply earn a quick buck is disgusting, disheartening, and a prime example of no good deed goes unpunished. There is no words for me to start to break down how ludicrous, they have spent millions of dollars. Do you know how many hundreds of millions of dollars, Eric, that your daddy stole from them as a result of being the trustee that he somehow managed to become? Right? The least trusted financially of all of the children, the 5 children, he was the least trusted, which is why your great-grandfather, well, I should say your grandfather, went ahead and put Alan Weisselberg in charge of all the money because he didn't trust Donald with it. On top of that, you're now attacking Mary Trump, and you're turning around and saying because you wrote some checks, seriously, that means that your father did not say the things that he said. And the worst part is you're putting this post out knowing that what you're saying is a complete and total lie. But I hope it brings you the love that you so desperately are in search of. All right. And you should actually reach out to your uncle and you should apologize. And you should make sure that that child has to come to you each and every month or each and every 6 months or each and every year, that there should be a fully funded account that is to be used for his purpose. Rest assured, his father would not be taking $1 of it for his own purpose. So, Eric, shame on you for everything that you're doing. Shame on Lara for the bullshit and the behavior in order to become the head of the RNC. Just shame on all of you. You know exactly what's going on here, and no posts are going to change the minds of what everybody else knows, and that is your father is full of shit. And it's why I will constantly say, vote Harris 2024. Hey, everyone. First of all, thanks for watching. I mean, we're going to be posting daily episodes with reactions and talking about politics. We'll be talking about everything, in fact. So please like and subscribe. Join us on this journey.